This is Growing Your Firm, the podcast for ambitious accountants and firm owners who want to work smarter, grow faster, and sleep better. I'm your host, David Costello. Let's get into it. Hey, everybody. David Costello here, founder and CEO of Jetpack Workflow and host of Growing Your Firm podcast. Today's guest is LaMichelle Hecht. She's the owner at Overhead Solutions Group. We actually got connected through LinkedIn. So shout out if you're listening on the podcast, you ever want to message me on LinkedIn, that's how we got connected. And LaMichelle's story, I think, is going to be really relevant for everyone listening. We started talking about how she's really transformed her firm, both in the services and the niches that she focuses on, but her approach to nearshoring some of the talent. And if folks follow me on LinkedIn, you notice maybe in the past month, I put out this thing, which is like, do you hire direct or do you hire agency? And I could tell you the large majority said agency, 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 agency. But I think LaMichelle has a different take on this that's proving out to be quite successful. So we're excited to dig into that and so much more. But LaMichelle, welcome to the show.
I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, well, for folks not familiar, let's start with the niche and the services that you provide and a little bit about the firm. So where are you at today? Like what's the maybe size of the firm, if you're okay disclosing, like the revenue and the services and the niches you serve?
Yes, of course. So, we serve, my main niche is nonprofits. I usually say I either do the audit or prepare them for the audit. That's usually my slogan. And then a secondary niche I work with is real estate, but probably 80% of what I do, 70 to 80% is helping nonprofits with a lot of assurance services and grant management. I would say right now with my firm, I have, outside of me, I have two part-time people, three full-time staff, and one full-time person starting in about 2 weeks. So for my revenue, as of May of this year, I'm projecting to be just over 500,000 in revenue for this year.
Amazing. I have to ask because um sometimes the niche of nonprofit kind of gets this like, well, how do you find them and how do you pay? So I'm curious, with 80% of your clients being nonprofit, what do you attribute the success you're having in nonprofits? How are you finding them? Is it word of mouth? Are you in nonprofit networks? Do you come from the nonprofit industry? Do you place ads? Do you go to conferences? What have you done to kind of build up such a strong base of clients?
Gosh, that is such a great question. Honestly, my original niche, my first couple years of business was real estate. And because of my past experience, I did a lot of audits, mostly of nonprofits and publicly traded companies. Like two very extreme differences. But that was my most of my experience before I started my own business. And I naturally got a few nonprofit clients without even trying. Like, my two biggest clients were clients I didn't even like other people, like other CPAs were like, hey, have this nonprofit. Can you please help them? They're desperate. So then I went in and got it. And one thing a lot of people don't know about nonprofits, and even some nonprofits don't know, is most budgets have a set aside for a CPA. And sometimes I talk to nonprofits, they say, I can't afford you. I say, let me see your grant contract. And 100% of the time so far, I have found it is money in that grant contract for me that the nonprofits don't even know about. At least the ones who say they can't. Of course, if they have to have at least usually about 2 to 300,000 in revenue, but usually if they're
Mhm.
there, they have money already set aside to use for me that they don't know about. And I would say I meet them through a virtual ways. Of course, one big way I meet them is through other CPAs I've known just throughout my career and networking on Facebook groups and CPA Facebook groups. And I do go to a conference in New Jersey every year. I've gotten a nonprofit conference. I've gotten some clients from there. Um, and I do post on social media a lot. So some people reach out because they say they saw a TikTok video, like they typed nonprofit CPA in TikTok and then reached out.
That's amazing. Now, a couple things to unpack there. The two largest nonprofit clients that were referred to you, why were they referred to you? Was it because that firm knew you provided audits or audit prep, or like what did they know about you that said, "Oh, go talk to LaMichelle"? Like how did you get on the radar and how did they know to refer to you?
This may sound cliche, but networks are everything. I'm originally from Chicago, so I was in the Illinois CPA Society. They have a women's mentoring circle. So I've been in this circle since 2019, and We used to meet, I just moved from Chicago maybe 18 months ago, but we used to, since then, we met once a quarter, have lunches and stuff. And in one of our, and each group only has about 5 to 6 women. So I've been with the same 5 to 6 women for years. And I mentioned there, like, oh, what you're up to. And I was like, my business has been going on just about a year. This is what I do. And then, she works for a bigger top 10 firm. And she was like, hey, we have an audit client, a nonprofit, and their books are just not good. Can I refer you to them to help them because their revenue, their AR is just not agreeing to anything. So you can clean them up. So that's how I got it, just by, being pretty. So even if you don't own a business, being consistent in my mentoring circle in the Illinois CPA Society Women Mentoring Circle group. And then after that, she introduced me. And then from there, since they knew the firm, they worked with that firm for years, they took my contract on the spot.
That's amazing. And what is this conference in New Jersey? Is it a nonprofit conference or is it a nonprofit accounting conference? Like what does that look like?
Oh, it's called the New Jersey Center for Nonprofits. So
Okay.
that's the conference, yes.
Okay. So
So it's all nonprofits there, and hundreds of nonprofit leaders in a small space. So it's great. I usually get a table there. So, I usually have at least, 50 to 100 people stop at my table at those events.
I love it. That's the beauty of having a niche is because you could go to industry events and really stand out. That's amazing. So you built up this really great base, largely nonprofit clients. And one of the things we were connecting on early on in through LinkedIn messaging was how you've decided to build out your team. So what did you try early on from offshoring perspective? Was that day one you tried offshoring? Like where did you start in the world of offshoring? And then we'll kind of get to where you're at today.
I would say um I'm at about year 5 in my business, but I would say about 6 to 8 months into my business, I tried offshoring. I used a very popular company out of the Philippines, and it was one of those agencies where they didn't work for me, they worked for the agency, and that did not work well at all
And
for
what do you
me.
attribute? What do you attribute? Yeah, and for your contact, and we won't name names, right? But like,
Of
what
course.
what do you think um what made it so suboptimal for you?
Hmm. think the I think there's a few things. I think time zone maybe been an issue, but I think one of the biggest thing is they were not a part of my, like, even though I trained them and stuff, they didn't feel like they were a part of my team. Like they were getting performance reviews and things like that from a third party company, right? And not from me. I'm not in the process. Because now I do an offshoring team out of Mexico, and I hire them directly to work for me. And I think the difference is they are a part of my team. They are equivalent to anyone here in the US. We all work together, do meetings together. I think that makes a huge difference.
Got it. So they weren't really integrated into your firm, and did that mean they were less efficient, or did you have like a slower turnaround? Like, what are the things where you said, like, I need to stop? Like, were you not potentially not getting the work? Was the work late? Was it largely incorrect? Like, I guess what was happening where you said, like, I can't do this anymore?
Um, so like, a simple task, like something I would think would take 2 hours, it would take them, I kid you not, 40 hours. And then lots of times when I would get the work back, it would be extreme variances. Like it would just not be correct. And then sometimes, because they were supposed to work for me 40 hours a week, 9 to 5, sometimes they just didn't show up that day and no one would tell me, and I had no way of getting, it was really hard to get in contact with the agency when the person didn't show up. It was a lot of that. And I tried for a while because they replaced it, with a couple other people, and it just didn't work. And I thought, okay, maybe offshoring is just not good for my personality. But I think I read a book somewhere that said one of the greatest secrets that accountants are missing out on is Latin America. Latin America is Western, so the culture is more similar. They're on the same time zone. It could work better. So that's why I decided, someone messaged me on LinkedIn about Latin America, a recruiting company. And I said, you know what? I'm gonna take the chance and do it. And that's how I got my first person in Latin America.
Got it. So you went from an agency model, and then is the model you use today? Do you engage with a recruiter? Is that how you're filling the initial pipeline, or is that how you used to?
Blessed. So the original guy I hired on, I got him through a recruiter, had to pay a recruiter fee. But then he brought on a guy that he knows, and then that guy introduced me to two other people. So now I don't have a recruiter. I had the initial recruiter, but now the people, all of them are in Mexico, and they lived in the same state in Mexico, and they're introducing me and stuff to some of their friends. So if I need another position, I just let them know, and they tell their universities or put it on their LinkedIn, and now I have a pipeline directly from my staff. And I do so one thing I do is, of course I interview them and I do pay for international background check. Those tend to be very expensive, but it's still cheaper to pay for a recruiter. But yeah, that's what I do now. So now I don't use recruiters anymore. I just use my own staff to find other staff.
Okay, I definitely want to dig into the interview process and then what the cost of the international background check is. But before I do, what did you pay for that initial recruiter, or what was their fee structure?
So the fee was 2,500, and you
Okay.
don't pay the fee until, so once you find someone and it's like a traditional recruiting company. You don't pay it until they find someone and that person's placed. And then as long as the person doesn't fit within 90 days, they'll replace them with someone else. So that's how that works for that
Okay.
one.
Got it. So you're like 2,500, but only if I get a hire. They have a replacement, complimentary replacement if it doesn't work out.
Mhm.
So they bring candidates to you, and then since then you've been referred additional great candidates. So what is your process for vetting them? What do your interviews look like? What are your stages of interviews? And then we'll get into, I guess, the background. I don't even know what the cost of an international background check is, so I'm curious about this as well.
So usually the stage of the interview is like the initial guy, he posted it on because I did offer, to be transparent, I did offer them a bonus. I say if you bring someone and they're successful, they last 90 days and are in good standing, I'll give you $1,000 bonus. That's what I told the initial guy. So he
Great.
found someone he didn't even know. He just posted on LinkedIn, and he did the pre-screening, like he asked them pre-questions before he sent them to me. And then from there, I
Your
have to,
staff did this? Your staff did this?
yes, my staff in
Oh,
Mexico did
okay.
this.
Amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think the $1,000 really motivated them.
Sure.
Then he introduced me to them. So then when he introduced me to this guy, I do have an interview process I do with everybody, no matter what. I pay for this test, and it's not an accounting test. The test tests two things: attention to detail and Excel skills. So I send those two tests. It kind of locks the screens and do that. And if they do well on that test, then I'll interview them. And then when I interview them, it's usually about an hour. Half of the interview is me doing a fake audit work paper, like cash. So I made a fake with ChatGPT. I made a fake bank statement. I made a fake bank reconciliation. I made a fake trial balance, and I made a fake audit work paper, and I made a prior year one because I tried to make it to stimulate the process as much as possible. So then I say, here is what I want you to do it. And to me, it tests a few things, right? Are they going to ask questions, or are they going to fall in a rabbit hole and not get it done? Because it's so
Mhm.
fast paced. I need someone who has the confidence to reach out to me, right? To ask me questions. And then it kind of tests if they understand accounting as well. Like, do they know how to read a trial balance? Do they know how to read a bank reconciliation? And I do a background check, and that does cost $700.
Got it. What are these? I love, by the way, the simulating the actual work and using ChatGPT to build out a real life, it's a working interview, which I think is really important. I don't hear that enough. Is like we're doing a working interview. These two tests, what's the company called? Like, what do they cost? What does that look like?
It's much cheaper. It's called Isograd, and it's about $10 a test.
That's it. What was the name of the company again?
Isograd is it's a French company, so it's Isograd.
Okay. Amazing. And $10 a test. Now, for the people, what does your pipeline look like in terms of people that make it to the tests? Like, is it three, you might give three people the test, two people make it to the interview, one person's offered, or is it like if you pass the test, you're probably going to pass the interview and you're probably going to pass the background check? Like, what have you seen from that data perspective?
I would say depends. Now,
Okay.
before my internal staff, I would say probably 8 people would take the test because I would tell a recruiting company, like 8 people, because my initial person with recruiting company actually didn't work and had to replace him with the second guy. So, it was replacing, but initially maybe like 10 people took the test. Some of them would fail it. And then maybe of those 10, maybe 4 to 5 would make it to the interview. And then of those, maybe one would make it through that interview and get a
Okay.
job. But to be transparent, since I've had my internal staff looking for them, 100% of people they've sent me, I've ended up hiring
Yeah, it's amazing. Now,
because they do a lot of the pre-screening, and I think they warn them, before they come, like this is what it's gonna be like. So it's been great for me.
that's amazing. Did you have a good experience with it? Would you recommend that recruiter? And if so, feel free to, let the audience know their name and or company.
Oh yes, I've referred them to actual other accountants. It's called Hire Latim.
Okay.
And I think I've only gotten an accountant from them, but I know they do like anything in Latin America. If you want someone to do your social media, I know one of the accountants I know I introduced them to them, and she got a administrative assistant from them. So yeah, it's a good company. They do a lot. When they send you candidates, they'll have like whole pages written up about what they like, what they don't like. They'll have videos, they'll have internet speed tests and everything before you even meet the candidate.
Yeah, I love that. Um, That's amazing, and we'll be sure to link that up. Um, kind of, switching gears here a little bit. What's next for you? It sounds like you have a growing remote team. Has that been a challenge to kind of build remote best practices? Have you learned anything from as you've scaled up how to keep everybody on the same page or communicate with them? Like how you run your team meetings? Like how's everybody stay on the same page, knowing that you're not in the same room and you're not even in the same country?
Say it's a little bit easier because most of us, well, they're on Pacific time zone, the same as California because they're on that side of Mexico. But I buy all of the programs, Google, I provide their emails like they are an employee of the company. I pay them directly. So I think it helps. So we're all on the same chat. We all use Google Meets, we all do calls, and then all of them, I set them up with Google Voice, which is really cool. So they could text me on my phone or call me directly. They can call clients and text with clients. So it works out very well. So we're
That's
pretty good
amazing.
about keeping in contact. And I do have some because I'm currently located in Virginia and I do have one person and I do have a small office space. I do have one part-time accountant in the office space with me here in Virginia.
Okay, very cool. Now, that brings up an interesting point. The people you hire in Mexico, all of them have direct client, like they are the client manager, they are they have direct contact with the client, or how do you kind of mark the difference between do you have client contact or not?
Wait 3 to 6 months before I do client contact. That's how I set it
Okay.
up. Yeah.
Okay. But then
And it
after
depends on
that,
the
they're
client, right? Because
yeah.
a handful of my clients are like, we only want to talk to you. And usually those are white glove clients. They usually pay more than other clients. So you know what? I just let them only talk. I have the staff send the stuff to me and I send it to them. But most clients are pretty open. They don't care as long as their work is getting done and they're a nonprofit. If we're doing grant management, all they care about is if I submit the reports and they get their money in time.
Yes. Yes. And what's been the salary difference hiring in Mexico like relative to the US, or like would the US be 70K and they're 40K, or like I guess talk to me about maybe some of the cost savings. It sounds like they're a great team that executes well, but of course I imagine there's cost savings. So what does that look like?
Yes. So actually, I pay above the market, and you're not going to believe how much I pay. So usually the starting pay is 1,800 a month. So right now the people in Mexico are making between 1,800 and 2,500. So someone making 2,500 a month in Mexico is equivalent to paying someone about 95,000 in United States. Like for example, one of my staff at his job before my job, he was making $800 a month. And since I raised him from 800,000, now because he's been with me a while, he's making about 2,000. He said it's completely changed his life. He could pay his parents' rent on top of his rent. So it's not a lot of money to us, but for them, it's completely life changing, at
Yeah.
least from what they tell me.
Well, and it also speaks to like you paying a slightly above market or well above market in some instances. Well, then it's kind of no surprise that when you tell them, "Hey, I have another job opening," they're like, "Oh my gosh, people would love to work here." Like you're gonna get, you're embedded in the team, you get really great pay, you're empowered to work directly with the clients. It sounds like your mindset of having them really be part of the team versus like a small cog in a bigger machine with lower pay. Like, I mean, it's a huge advantage that you have, and it probably speaks to how successful your referrals have been in terms of hiring new staff.
Mindset of rent versus own. I want everyone on my team to see themselves as a part of an ownership and not just a place they're temporarily renting. I don't want to be a stepping stone, if that makes. I mean, I know I realistically we're accountants. They may find a job somewhere else, but my goal is for them to feel like they own it and they're a part of the greater plan.
That's amazing. LaMichelle, this has been a lot of fun to hear about your journey, specifically talking about your nearshore hires. Again, everybody I talked to, this must go agency, must go agency. I said, you know what? When everybody's going to A but somebody's going to B and being successful, it'd be great to have you on the show. So I really enjoyed how you broke down your process for bringing on and incorporating and integrating the team. If somebody wants to reach out, say thank you, connect with you, what's the best way for them to do so?
Link is probably the easiest way to connect with me.
Okay, great. We'll link you up on LinkedIn in the show notes. It'll be at jetpackworkflow.com/blog, jetpackworkflow.com/blog. We'll not only link up your LinkedIn, your website, some of the conferences you mentioned. We'll link up the State Society you mentioned. Any other resources you want us to link up? Anything else that's been impactful for you on your journey?
No, this has been great. I would just say invest in a good workflow software. That has made a huge difference. Even for me, I never miss client work now because the second I sign any engagement letter, it instantly gets put in the software. So I don't miss deadlines. So I say that's a big deal for me.
No argument there. I completely agree. Get your house in order. Make sure things do not fall through the cracks. Well said. If you enjoyed today's interview, leave a review. Help us get the word out. And if you really loved it, share it. Email it, text it, share it on LinkedIn, tag both of us. Whatever you need to do, share it out with the community. LaMichelle, this has been great. I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you.